Hello, I am Commissioner Emma I. Darnell, Fulton County District 6. Welcome to Mighty Six Conversations. Conversations is a monthly information and communication program focusing on the sustainable community, economically strong, environmentally safe, with liberty and justice for all. The question we're going to ask today relates to equity. And what is the meaning of equity, and what does it have to do with economic growth and development? Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back in a moment. Joining me in the conversation today is Nathaniel Smith, who is the founder and Chief Equity Officer for the Partnership for Southern Equity. Mr. Smith earned the Bachelor of Science degree in Urban Studies from Morehouse College and the Master of Science degree in Urban Policy and Analysis from the New School located in New York City. Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, Commissioner.
We are so pleased to have you, and we are extremely interested in the work of the Partnership for Southern Equity. We were especially interested in the sections on growth and equity.
Yes, ma'am.
We are very proud here in Fulton County to, as we tell folks all the time, to be the number one county in terms of population in the state. And also we learned from the census that between the period of 2000 and 2010, we were the second fastest growing county in Metro Atlanta. But as I read further into the Atlas, is it called?
Yes,
the Metro Atlas,
yes,
which is made up of data that you use in reaching your conclusions and making your recommendations to governments and others. And we need to go a little deeper.
Yes.
And look at that growth. And that's what I want to focus on today, Mr. Smith. There are so many facts, demographic and other kinds of facts in the Atlas, which will be useful to us as we develop policy here. But what you have there in terms of data, in terms of growth and equity, very interesting to us. We want to explore that, and we want to disseminate that information to the folks who are watching this program. We're the second fastest growing, but we're not growing as fast as we did 20 years ago. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
And also, you've pointed out to us, Mr. Smith, that we might need to look at where are we growing in Fulton.
Yes.
Where are we growing, and where are we not growing, and who is it that in this population? Where is this? That's what we want to talk about primarily. Yes. Where and who, and then we want to see what does equity have to do with our growth and our economic well-being.
Yes, yes. Well, again, thank you, Commissioner Darnell, for giving me an opportunity to have an important discussion that we need to have in Fulton County.
Yes.
Right now, there is an imbalance of growth in our region and in our county. The growth follows, of course, the talent. It follows the good infrastructure. Yes. And it also follows the economic development opportunities that are created as a result of sometimes government incentives, sometimes people continuously doing the same thing and expecting different results. And what has happened as a result of that is really an imbalance of where the growth is happening in Fulton County and in metropolitan Atlanta, and where the talent and the needs are for that growth to occur.
Tell us about that. Where is it? Where is it happening?
So if you look at the map of economic development in our region, there's still a great amount of lopsided growth that is occurring north of I-20. So many of our job centers that we see in Fulton County and as well as the rest of the region are north of that I-20 highway point. But what we're also seeing is a lot of the affordable housing, a lot of the talent that would benefit from the jobs that are being created are actually south of I-20. And so what we're seeing is a mismatch of where the affordable housing is and where the jobs are, which is one of the hidden reasons why we have so many challenges around traffic and around bad air. And what is happening, unfortunately, is that we're experiencing a tale of two counties and a tale of two regions where you have pockets of prosperity in our county, in our region, and in other parts of our county and region, specifically in the South, you have pockets of limited opportunity where we have such an abundance of talent, and yet we haven't found a way yet to fully mine that talent and create the conditions where everyone can participate in our economy.
And I believe that those facts apply not only to Metro Atlanta, but to Fulton County as well.
Yes, definitely.
Specifically.
Definitely.
And the growth in Fulton County has been primarily in the north.
Yes.
And also in the south. It hasn't been in central Fulton.
Right.
It hasn't been in
Right.
cities, has it?
Right. Well, and that has really been the challenge, because a lot of times we assume that markets just happen automatically in communities and in certain areas, and they just happen by happenstance. But we know through the data and the facts that is not necessarily
certain
the case.
Conditions create that, right?
Certain conditions create opportunities for economic revitalization, for economic opportunity. And so if you create the conditions where you have good schools, where you have a highly educated workforce, where you have new infrastructure, where you have policies that attract the talent and the businesses to certain communities, then you're going to have economic prosperity in those areas. But on the flip side of that, if you have older and less connected infrastructure, challenged schools, and as well as a lack of interest in the people who live in a certain area, you're going to get negative outcomes. And so what we have to do as a county is to really begin to reimagine the way that our county needs to grow in order for us to participate in this emerging global economy. And even more important, Commissioner, finally embrace the understanding that we all do better when we all do better.
And that sort of gets us to the other point that the experts who developed the data in the Atlas point out to us. And it does get back to who is it that is responsible for this extraordinary growth over the past 10 years. That ties into the point you're making about where the growth is.
Yes.
And in terms of area, right?
Yes. And that, again, it is a matter of public policy. And it is also a matter of the value proposition that we have to not only propose to our population, but also the key elements of our sector, of our economic sectors, of our educational sectors, and other sectors, that everyone has to play a part in moving our county forward.
So what is the challenge then? If most of the growth over the last 10 years has been with the minority populations, African Americans, Asian Pacific, for instance, Gwinnett County, almost 42%. If that's where the growth has been,
the demographic growth.
Demographic growth. Yes.
Ma'am.
Going back
Yes,
to
the numbers. Yes,
to who?
Right.
Yeah. Because that creates the challenge,
Yes,
I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
Most of the growth has been with minority populations in Fulton and in Gwinnett and in the other counties where we've had significant growth, because I believe Gwinnett is number one
it's the most
in
diverse
growth.
county.
But most of that growth is with minority populations.
Yes.
Same thing is true, I understand, in Fulton County.
Yes.
So when you consider who, and you consider where, That's where our challenge lies, doesn't it?
Yes, it is. And again, we have to fundamentally utilize data like the data found in the Metropolitan Atlanta Equity Atlas, as well as the wisdom of the communities that we serve, to have even more clarity about where the opportunities for growth and innovation lie. Unfortunately, on many occasions, we're still using the analysis and the assumptions that people used 10 years ago around what are the populations that are growing in our community, what is the market saying in terms of where those opportunities for growth are, and we need to put those assumptions on their heads and create a new assumptions, a new analysis, new performance measures.
That's why we need facts.
We need facts. We need to stop assuming that we have all the facts and not fully understand that the facts are changing, and that if we don't leverage the new facts to make the decisions that we need to make in order to strengthen our local economy, then we'll continue to have old outcomes because we continue to use old facts while the new facts continue to drive where we're going as a community.
And more importantly, we'll have diminished impact.
Yes.
Upon the people that we serve.
Yes.
We're going to take a break right now, Mr. Smith, and we're going to come back, and I want to talk a little bit more about how some other communities have met these challenges.
Yes.
We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. Mr. Smith, you had indicated before the break that unless we have facts that are dependable, and you indicated community, bona fide and reliable, real community engagement, we'll continue to reach conclusions that are defective and really reduce the impact upon people that we had planned. I'd like for you to continue that. What are some examples you can give us of some of the kinds of conclusions we reach in public policy that probably lead to disappointing results that we need to look at again? For instance, would this be one, the assumption that the concentration of poverty is still in the central city, while the more affluent areas are in the suburbs? Is that one that we assume is still true, but which the census doesn't quite support that?
It doesn't at all. And unfortunately, Metropolitan Atlanta has the #1 percentage change of suburban poverty of any jurisdiction. Of any jurisdiction of its size in the country, even more than Detroit. And so what we're seeing is a large segment of our impoverished population beginning to move out into the suburban area. Some have been forced out because of the market trends in our current
and
local government policies.
Yeah.
But some are just leaving to try to find good schools and good jobs that they can benefit from. So we call those push and pull factors. But I wanted to take a step back too, if I may, and talk a little bit about the public policy and how public policy can play a role in hurting us as a community if we do not utilize the facts and leverage fear versus facts to make policy decisions. So if you look at even our highway system, and how unfortunately on many occasions our highway systems have been built on top of communities and have not really been connected in ways that would provide alternative modes of transportation for people that cannot afford cars. That in itself has created boundaries between us as a community. The Federal Housing Administration, in terms of their modeling around and policies in the 40s around encouraging de facto segregation in communities, which in turn influenced the way that banks loan dollars and created red lines around communities of color that limit opportunities for funding. Or even more recently, when the MARTA Act was elevated in the late 60s and early 70s, and all of the counties in our region had an opportunity to become a part of it, unfortunately, only Fulton and DeKalb and the city of Atlanta embraced it. But now, as a result of that, a result of people not embracing it, we have bad traffic and we have these imbalances of talent and jobs that we see in our region. So again, policy plays a key role in positioning Fulton County and our region for the 21st century. And if we don't find ways to utilize policy as a strategy to bring us together and to mine and leverage all of the talents that we have in our community, then we will continue to lag behind in some of the most important indicators that we have and that are being measured right now in our country.
That certainly is an analysis that is based on the facts.
Yes.
From the 2010 census. It was very interesting to note that of the top 100 neighborhoods with the highest incomes in Fulton County, only 12 are south of I-20.
Yes.
The data also from the census indicated that of the top 100 neighborhoods with incomes over 200,000, only 5 of those neighborhoods are south of I-20. This is the effect, you're saying, of not only demographic trends in terms of population, but public policy as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am. I mean, it was public policy that created the conditions.
That put jobs in
right.
the north
Yes.
and minorities in the south.
Yes, of inequity. And so it'll take a renewed vision, which is implemented through public policy, which will get us out of the challenges that we're facing. I mean, another key indicator that we have to understand, not only in terms of our urban core, which is, of course, the city, as well as the county. I mean, the city of Atlanta right now is the #1 most unequal city in the nation. We're #1 for inequality. Fulton County is number 6.
What does that mean? The gap
between
the highest
and the lowest. There are gap in terms of the Gini coefficient, and I don't want to go too specific into
I didn't want to mention
but
that.
but the gap between the folks that are doing very well and the folks that are suffering is broad.
It's the gap that affects the economy.
It does. It's the gap in the relationship between those two segments of our population, not just where people stand, but that the relationship between the two. Because again, if we look at the demographic trends and see that we're moving towards, very similar to what you said, that the growth has happened in majority in communities of color, but yet we're not preparing these populations that are unfortunately on many occasions on the lower end of the economic spectrum, then that not only influences those particular communities, but it influences everyone. And so we have to find a way to create strategies that will generate a more inclusive economy. And we call it shared prosperity, but an economy where everybody can not only participate, but also benefit from economic opportunity.
King County in Seattle, you notice that you point out in your report, they've taken some of the most affirmative steps, I think, of certainly any counties in the nation to deal with this situation. And I noticed in the introduction, the chief executive said Seattle is one of the best places in the world to live, but we have left too many behind.
Yes.
And of course, they've integrated this concept into their entire government.
Yes, they have.
But they have identified some of the determinants of equity.
Yes.
And really, they really, in some cases, are very similar to some of the actions that we've taken. For instance, we, in dealing with health disparities, we made a decision to decentralize our health centers so that everybody will have access to a health center And we've said that in the health center, there should be more than just an opportunity to receive the resources
Yes.
from the WIC program.
Yes.
But that expectant mother also should be able to receive primary care, mental care, jobs information,
Yes.
housing information. And that is because the decision was made at the time that in order to reduce and eliminate health disparities, the government is going to have to do some things
Yes.
about access.
Yes.
And I noticed that in the King County approach to equity and dealing with the fact that they too have large populations being left behind,
Yes.
they mentioned some of these same kinds of strategies.
Right.
Workforce strategies,
Right.
schools,
Yes. Yes.
the whole thing.
It's a comprehensive approach.
It's comprehensive.
Commission. It's comprehensive.
Tell us about that.
And to just enter into this conversation, in our county, a person's zip code should not dictate whether they will have an opportunity to have a good life or not. We should not be able to look at someone's zip code and decide whether they will have a good education, or whether they will live a long time, or whether they would have a good job, or whether they will have access to other amenities. And so we have to break that up, our zip code should not determine where people will end up on the economic strata of our county. But second, we have examples like King County, Washington.
And Charlotte.
That have really been strategic about public policy.
Good word.
And incorporated something called a just and fair, not necessarily a just and fair ordinance, but a just and fair principle, and embed that into an ordinance that would then help to guide the decision making, not only of the government, but also through these indicators that they call the social determinants of equity, begin to look at key variables and key indicators that need to be lifted up and strengthened in these challenged communities. And so they've taken a personal responsibility to begin the process of assessing their effectiveness, while at the same time utilizing data as a way to focus their resources in communities that need it the most.
Mr. Smith, we've run out of time, but we certainly want to get more information about that approach. You call it shared prosperity.
Yes, yes.
And we're certainly going to make that information available here within Fulton, but also to others, because part of your comprehensive approach that you emphasized is real community engagement.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you so
Smith,
much.
for
Thank you.
coming in.
It's an honor. Thank
you. The dissemination of information is only the first step, but we know that the final step is whether or not we can apply
Yes.
this information in such a way that will be to the benefit of people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Coming up next is Mighty Moments in the Mighty Six. Conversations with you in the community where you live and work and play. We'll be back in a moment with Mighty Moments. And now it's time for Mighty Moments. At this point in our program, we pause to hear directly from you, residents of District 6. We call this segment Mighty Moments, moments that we share with you and your neighbors in your neighborhood. Here's what we heard during our visit to the Camp Truett Senior Neighborhood Center. But I just came out to just, as we say at the church, touch and agree. It's good to have computers. It's good to have online. You know, I was telling Mr. Adams, my chief of staff, you know, I've learned how to receive an email. The only thing I need now is to learn how to send one. That technology is good, isn't it? Yes. It helps us out a lot. And Lord, our grandchildren, they can make those computers smoke, can't they? Yes. It's amazing. But you can't let computers substitute for people. Yeah, I tell people all the time, if the only friends you have are on Facebook, you in big trouble. I like real friends, don't you? Yeah. I like to see people one-on-one. So before I leave today, I'm going to come around and I'm going to speak to everybody. I'm going to shake everybody's hand. Of course, now we used to do hugging too. But I won't get into all of that.
Well, I've been with the center here now approximately about 4 or 5 years. And during that time frame, we've been seeing some growth here. We have some pretty good programs here in addition to the weight room thing here that has just been put in, I would say, this year or last part of last year. Prior to that, we didn't have this. It's a great facility. We do a lot of traveling with the seniors.
How often do you ride the treadmill?
Well, I come out here 3 days a week, so I won't get stiff. Keep me active.
It's worth it because it's keeping us healthy. You know, it's cutting down on it's a preventive maintenance, I like to call it. You know, to keep us in shape and to keep us moving. We have to keep our minds active and as well as our body active also. And we do have programs here that does that for us.
I appreciate coming and getting on it every day of my life.
Why?
I don't want to sit down and get old. I want to stay young. Although I'm getting old, but I'm going to stay young.
Seniors need to stay as active as possible for longevity. They need to get out of the home. Normally, seniors are home throughout the day, throughout the week with no one there to speak to or conversate with. And by engaging in a center activity, they get a chance to entertain with other people. They get a chance to exercise here in the exercise room. They get a chance to exercise their mind and fellowshipping with other seniors throughout the metro Atlanta area.
I'm listening to staff and we're working with other commissioners because we're living longer, thank God.
Oh, that's 92. 92? Born 1923. I don't feel 92. I feel good.
Y'all have heard me say many times, as seniors, we intend to live until we die.
The doctor say I got to stay fine, plus it's getting summertime, you know.
You're going to die on time and not before time.
My name is Georgia Daniel.
Hi, I am Anita Carter.
My name is Harry Cousins, and that's my mighty moment.
And that's my mighty moment.
That's my mighty moment.
Thank you for sharing. Stay tuned for more Mighty Six conversations. In the development of the 2015 strategic plan, the Board of Commissioners has made a commitment to focus on people and the impact of what we do on people. For this reason, the staff has developed what we call an environmental scan, which not only focuses upon the internal environment of departments and programs and projects, but it also focuses upon the social and economic factors, including inequity, which can have not only a negative impact upon growth and the economic stability of the government, but also, perhaps more importantly, upon the safety, the health, and the dignity of all the people of Fulton County. That's all the time we have for today's conversation. Until next time, stay strong. To learn more about today's conversation, contact me at 404-612-8222. That's 404-612-8222. You can also email me at emma.darnell@fultoncountyga.gov. Visit us online at emmadarnell.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter. For more information about Mighty Moments, contact me at emmadarnell.com and leave a message on the contact page. Place in the subject Mighty Moments.